يا حسين 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 يا حسين 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 يا حسين 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 يا حسين 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 أنت إمامي إليك انتمائي منك قريب في كربلائي في كربلائي.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غلص الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. صل على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان، خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوه لعلهم يرجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. The Islamic perspective on minimalism has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 4. The attempt since day number 1 of this topic has been for us to refocus and for us to understand that our true purpose in this world is not to possess or to introduce a lifestyle where we are individuals who consume consciously. We live a life of sustainable consumption. Well, now we understand that this idea of a very sadeh and a very simple life of minimalism brings about clarity and brings about focus, reintroduces our worldview to us. In the process, it frees us from the chains of the power of possession and frees us from this need to keep up with the lifestyle that frankly we can't keep up with. In the process, the danger is that if we continue to consume like we consume and possess like we possess, then that worldview I talked about yesterday will begin to become corrupt. And as I've been saying since day number 1, the destination in our life becomes the avenue, and the avenue becomes the destination. Last night we talked about worldview with Jahan Bini. We talked about the fact that those individuals who see the world as it should not be seen, their life and their ending of their life is in front of us. And while we understand at a theoretical level what our worldview should be, it is in the practical domain where we really have to work and constantly work and revisit this idea to ensure it's protected from corruption. Because this era of consumerism is such that, like I said in the very first lecture when I began to build the base of this discussion, is the idea that we are the consumer, we are the customer. And in consumerism, customer is God. You please the consumer, you attain success. So whatever the customer wants now, you have to sell it to them. You have to brand it accordingly, market it accordingly with the hopes that maybe, inshallah, they'll say yes to your brand. However they want it. They want to customize it a certain color, a certain amount of gigs, a certain size, whatever you like. We have everything that you need. Everything we have to offer is up to your standards. And the problem sometimes is that this idea of consumerism trickles into our deen sometimes. Well, now we want the deen to be sold to us like a brand. Convince me, Maulana, that what I believe in is my salvation. You have half an hour, you have 40 minutes, you have 10 days. This is your presentation, I'm listening. Go ahead. I'll let you know at the end of 10 days whether or not I'm buying what you're selling. Meanwhile, what I sell is an investment. What I sell is delayed gratification. What I sell is a shipping method that is until the day of judgment. And you can't look at the deen through the eyes of consumerism. It's not one brand on a shelf of many brands. It's not one product of your thousands of products in your home. It's the destination side of our life. So you understand what I'm trying to get at in this ashra, inshallah. And every discussion, like I said last night, is a link to this chain, right? Keep in mind my flight path. Now we're beginning to taxi, we're beginning now to kind of take off. Now these next few discussions are extremely crucial, which will lead us to the 8th and 9th discussion, which of course is now our descent to what we want to achieve with all of you. We only have 1 week left until the day of Ashura. 1 week. 6 lectures after tonight. That's not a lot of time. And there still is a lot to discuss. In today's discussion, I wish to look at the concept of sa'ada, of happiness in Islam. Achieving happiness in Islam. Because the reality is that this pursuit of happiness is a universal pursuit. There's nobody in this room, no one listening to me anywhere in this building wishes to be miserable. No, of course not. We want that level of happiness, we want that level of contentment, we want to raise ourselves to that level where we are radi with Allah. And He in turn is radi with us. And while the pursuit of happiness is universal, the measure of happiness is very relative. What makes me happy and content may not be what makes you happy or content. What brings about the level of itminan and serenity inside of my heart may not be those factors that does that for you. But all of us are searching for that. We just want that little bit of breeze on a very, very scorching hot day. But there are certain things that are universal in terms of the method and the measure of happiness. Because the reality is, in this era of consumerism, in the era of social media, like I said a couple of nights ago, we have mastered the process of displaying a life that is perfect. We are on cloud 9. You know, it's our 10th year anniversary, and I post a long paragraph about how great my husband and my wife are to me. A picture of us somewhere, let's say on a beach, and long list about you are my world, and you are my zindagi, and you are my sabkuch, and all, you know, everything I am is for you. And when I read those things, I think, oh man, this marriage is in trouble. Yeah. Happy birthday to my better half. Without you, I am nothing. With you, I'm everything. I'm like, oh boy, it's not good. Because what I've seen, maybe what you've seen, is that the more epic their life is on social media, the more miserable they are behind closed doors. Sorry. Now you can't show your misery online, right? Online is a production show. So one of the things that minimalism removes from us is duality. Living multiple lives, multiple masks, turning one switch on, turning another switch off. It's a life of absolute clarity. It's a conscious decision. I'm going to keep saying that to all of you. It's a conscious decision for you to live your life the way you want to live your life. Not some cookie cutter method that's been shoved down our throat in today's 2019. It's a decision you have to make as a family, as an individual, as children, as parents, as the entire nuclear family. So I truly believe that all of us are tired of the misery. And we keep expecting for things to happen that just are not happening. So I want to go through tonight a few points that I wish to present to all of you on the idea of happiness, the idea of sa'ada. Islam has a beautiful, beautiful explanation on how to achieve that level of Sayyid, of true happiness, of true itminan, of true contentment. And I think sometimes there are some misconceptions, maybe on my end, that I need to clear up for myself. And then inshallah we'll move forward. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When we talk about the Islamic perspective of contentment and happiness, because really, one thing that true happiness is not is momentary, correct? You have a good meal, let's say, with your family. It's a great time, great food, great people, great conversation, and you're very happy leaving that restaurant. It's happiness, but it is momentary. I mean, it's temporary. It doesn't last very long. Or you have a day with your spouse that you really enjoyed with your spouse, and you go home very happy, and you go to bed that night very happy. That's all great. Those are moments and sparks of happiness, but we're talking about something that's a little bit longer lasting. Now, up until now, my lectures have been very one-sided. And I asked all of you for your patience with me in the first or second lecture as we get through 10 days. Okay, it will try to hopefully come together by the day of Ashura, what I'm trying to achieve with all of you in these 10 nights. But so far it has been very one-sided in the sense that I've told you, don't possess. Don't own things. Don't run after the dunya. Live a simple life. And when someone of 18 years old, 21 years old, a newlywed couple hears this from someone like me, they think, okay, we can't have a big house, we can't have a nice car, we can't have very nice furniture, I can't have that 60-inch TV flat screen on my wall. It's either I do this or it's the deen. And as hard as I tried to make sure that wasn't what I was saying, I don't think I was very successful. So in this discussion on happiness, let's break a little bit of the mold and balance things out. In Islam, sa'adat is both jismi and ruhi, number one. It's both at the body level and at the soul level. Okay? Alama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayh, sahib al-tafsir al-mizan, in his discussion on sa'ada, he talks about this idea that happiness can be achieved in this physical world. I'll give you a hadith that might surprise all of you. And in a couple of nights now, I know I keep doing this to you, but in a couple of nights now, we'll talk further about this. But today, just a little bit of a preview, just so nobody leaves here thinking this guy wants us to basically live in an empty shack our whole life. Imam Jafri Sadiq, alayhi salatu wasalam, it's a very interesting tradition. He says there are 4 things that can help you achieve happiness. 4 things. Number 1, he says, is a good spouse. Now somebody might think, oh great. What's the other 3, Malana? Number 2 is a good neighbor, a good hamsai. Number 3, Imam Sadiq says, a beautiful house. Number 4, he says, is a beautiful car. 4 things that you can attain happiness through. Now obviously that's not the only 4 things, but these are 4 things that are what? Jismi, that are materialistic in this world, that are tangible things that you can touch and see. So we know, at least from this hadith, that the Ahlul Bayt and Islam in general has nothing to do with the fact if you have a very beautiful home and a very beautiful car and a very loving wife and a great neighbor. That's what you should aspire towards, absolutely. But on the flip side, when it comes to the discussion on the sa'adat al-ruhi, that happiness that is internal, that's where sometimes the misconception lies. And I'll present to you what that misconception is. Because internal commitment is not an outside-in process. It's an inside-out process. You cannot attain contentment, look at the word now, contentment in the long-term level by possessions outside of you. You can't. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, you know, if I could just buy this one house, I'll be very happy. If I could just have this car, I'll be very happy. If I could just travel here with my husband or my wife, I'll be very happy. And I mentioned when the world of you is corrupt and you get what you're actually striving for, there's still a gaping hole inside of you, such that you have everything this world has to offer, but somehow you end up taking your own life. So we understand it's not an outside-in process. I cannot gain that itminan qalb, that serenity of the heart, by anything that's external from me. Because you're looking for something that's eternal from a world that is very limited. You're looking for that thing that is baqi from a world that's fani. It's not possible. It's impossible. But sometimes that's what we do. Sometimes either we try to mask things or cover things or present things like they're not by surrounding ourselves with just possessions upon possessions upon possessions. Drowning in debt, maxing your credit card, doing all, it doesn't matter. I have what I want. Now I can invite this couple over for dinner and that couple over for dinner. Because when we go over to someone's house, you know, we're sitting there, we're enjoying the conversation, but we're taking mental pictures of their house, are we not? Click, 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 click. The size of that TV, that sofa, that frame, that fridge, that appliance, this and that. And we go home and we download those images into our brain. And now we work towards the fact that, oh, if they have a 60-inch TV, I want a 70-inch TV. When I get that, then I'll invite them over for dinner. I got 10 more inches, man. Meanwhile, credit card is maxed. Your sister has no money, your parents are struggling. These are extreme examples, I get it, you'll be surprised though. All in an effort to somehow get some happiness, and that's when this depression, anxiety, stress, all kind of falls into place. It's an inside-out process. Let me explain that to you. Surah Hajj, 22nd surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 11. Oh my God. Powerful verse. Powerful verse, 22:11. Please follow me. The verse says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. From amongst the men and the people who worship Allah, they worship Allah ala harf. It's a verse I recite everywhere I go because it's one of those verses of many that I truly feel could have been revealed today from the Quran. And it would have been relevant. Sometimes you come across some ahadith, some verses, right? You come across in your readings, inshallah, where you think, wow, this verse is talking about 2019. And that's really the miracle nature of the Quran. It transcends generations and nations and time. Anyways, this to me was one of those verses, 22:11. From amongst the insan, the human beings that worship Allah, they worship Allah ala harf. What does ala harf mean? Harf in Arabic literally means the edge of a cliff. If you could picture a person on the edge of a cliff, they're very vulnerable, they're very volatile, they're in a very sensitive spot. One little slip, they're down the cliff. Quran in its beautiful imagery is describing people now. These are not the mushrikeen, my brothers and sisters. Not the munafiqeen, not the kuffar, not anyone else. These are people, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ, who worship Allah, who do ibadat of Allah, but they do ibadat of Allah on the edge of a cliff. On the edge of a cliff. One slight nudge, one strong gust of wind, a slip on a pebble, and that's right. The verse goes on to say, what is that cliff? What is that volatile state? Oh, وَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ. So long as there's khair coming, you have my itminan. So long as Allah, you give me what I want, you give me my khair, you give me whatever I want, you have my itminan, you have my worship. I'm mutma'in in you. So long as you provide me everything. This is my long list of du'as. This is my time frame attached to my du'as. I want a child in 6 months. I want to be pregnant in 6 months. I want to be married by the time Sayyid Asad comes back, inshallah, in 2020, 2021, whatever it is. I want to be able to go for ziyarah, but next year is better. I have time off, I can go, the weather is nice, blah, blah, blah. And we present this to Allah in our du'as, and the 6 months passes, till 2020 passes, Arba'een passes, and there's no sight of any du'as happening. And we think, forget this. I knew it was a bad idea to ask. So long as there's khair, so long as you do your part, God, so long as you give me what I want, you let me marry the guy I want to marry, you cure my mother of cancer, you give my husband a job, you ensure that my child is this or that, then that's fine. If you do that, it's ma'annabi. You have my worship. And you have my itminan, sukoon, serenity, no doubt. There's no parishani, there's no absolute stress at all. You do your job, I'll do mine. You give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. Khalas. The verse doesn't end there. فَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ انقلب على وجهه. Allahu Akbar. But the moment that a fitna comes, now fitna in Urdu is one thing, fitna in Arabic is another, correct? Fitna in Urdu is a very negative word, fitna, fasad, corruption. But fitna in the Quranic Arabic means what? A test, an azmayish, imtihan. The moment that a test comes from you, Allah, inqalaba ala wajhihi, they turn their face away from you. You ever see somebody who's upset with somebody, or you yourself have been upset with somebody, and they stand in front of you when you're at the height of that anger? What do? You know what? I can't even look at your face. I'm so upset at you. You disgust me. How could you? How dare you? You upset me. You let me down. You disappointed me to the point where I'm going to turn my face away from you. I'm going to walk away from you, turn my back and walk the other way. فَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. The moment that the khair is gone, Allah, and you place the first test on my road, I'm going to turn my face away from you. How could you? How dare you? How could you do that? I served on this board, I served on that board. I was the president, I was the chair lady, I was the principal, I was this, I was that. I sacrificed, I migrated here for you, I did that, I sacrificed, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't watch movies, I don't do anything. All of that is out the window, all for you. And you respond to me with what? With a fitna? What? Are you kidding me? Inqalaba ala wajhihi. Ala harf now, ala harf, on the edge of a cliff, on the edge of a cliff. All sorts of conditions. Subhana Rabbil Ala wa bihamdi. You want my sujood? No problem. These are my conditions. Almost as if, na'udhu billah, almost as if he is the slave and we're the master. You do for me, I'll do for you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But when that khair is gone, you can take my ibadat away as well. خسر الدنيا والآخرة. A person like that has lost both worlds, both the dunya and the akhirah. Because the reality is fitna and test is not prejudice. Fitna and test don't only sit there and target the mu'mineen of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It's not like the dunya says, okay, I'm only going to test those who go to Dar, that's it. No. Those who live in Tanzania, no. Neither is it the case that the fitna of this dunya and this world only tests those who are the mu'mineen. No. Or the believers. No. Doesn't matter who you are. You could be a God-fearing individual or a God-rejecting one. Fitna and test is a reality of this dunya. And again, in a couple of nights we'll talk about the dunya. It's a really important discussion for us to understand. If I am struggling with my faith and my iman and my nafs, if my child is sick, if my mother has diagnosed something in terms of a disease, God forbid, then my neighbor who is a Hindu or an atheist also has the exact same problems. The difference is that when they get riddled with the fitna, they might turn to something else. I turn to the musalla. That's where I get my what? My outlet from the fitna. But when you remove that musalla from the equation, now in this world you're miserable. And because you've turned your face away from Allah, in the akhirah also you're miserable. خَسَرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Look, people work for either worlds, right? Either you've made or we've made this dunya heaven, or we've sacrificed in this dunya to make the akhirat heaven. But when a person loses both, oh my God, وَذَلِكَ هُوَ الْخُسْرَانُ الْمُبِينُ. The verse ends. This is the ultimate loss. Khusran. Ulama are here. Khusran, sighe mubaligha. Khusr means it's a loss. Khusran means it's a monumental loss. And it comes from this idea that sometimes I think we believe, and I don't think, again, on paper, theoretically, in our aql, we accept it. But in the reality of the practical aspect of life, we don't apply these things. At least I don't. I think for a moment that because I say La ilaha illallah, I should be immune from hardships. There should be a force field around me where shaitan bounces off of this force field and doesn't affect me. If there is the thunderstorms of life, there should be not one cloud above my head. Why? Because I say La ilaha illallah. And sometimes we think, practically speaking, the higher I go in the ladder of spirituality, the more easy my life should be. The more stress-free my life should be. The more hardship-free my life should be. And I get it, when you're in the middle of that storm and you're drenched from head to toe, it's very hard to sit there and think about these things. But the reality is we have to stop and think for a moment that those who are greater than us before us have been tested in more difficult situations than us. The very man that we are here to commemorate in these 10 days. Was there anything that he wasn't tested on? Fear, hunger, thirst, death, a loss of a child, a loss of his companions, a loss of his nieces and nephews. I don't know from where this comes sometimes inside of our hearts. That I have served Allah too much and too sincerely for Him to throw fitna after fitna after fitna. Almost as if it's to the point where everybody else lives a calm life. There's a big target on my chest and Allah keeps hitting that target and hitting that target over and over and over again. Whenever I get through one problem, there's another one that's even more difficult waiting for me outside my door. Meanwhile, person A, person B, person C is sitting there in Mexico, Cancun, on the beach, mashallah, with her beautiful kids and his wife and his, and his villas and his suites and his luxury, and I'm sitting there just trying to get through one salat that's wajib on me. It's not fair, Malana. And that's where that contentment comes in. That contentment is meant now to get through that storm, such that at the end of the storm, when you are drenched from head to toe, you're still saying La ilaha illallah. Because I'm sorry, at least not to me, there's no verse of the Quran, no hadith of the Ahlul Bayt. Nobody, no alim, I think, has ever told me that, look, the storms of this life will drench everybody, but not you. All this talk about hardship in this world, all this talk about squeezing of the grave in the next world, barzakh and qayamat and jannat and nar, all that is for everybody else, not for you. You're a believer in Allah, you believe in Ghadir, you're an azadar of Abu Abdullah Hussein. You have easy life through here, through the grave, to barzakh, and go enjoy your grapes in heaven. You won't be asked a single question. If anyone tells you that from the member, off the member, I'm sorry, reject it. It's high time that we embrace the way this dunya is going to treat us. Embrace it. It's not the best of news. I don't mean to be depressing, but let's wake up. Let's stop living in these fantasy worlds. This world of consumption, this world of possession, this world of Netflix has created this fantasy world inside of us. That we live in a bubble, we live in a dream until the next hardship hits and that bubble is popped. And we're left with facing the fact that I wasn't ready for this hardship, Alana. I just got through one. But what we don't understand sometimes is that it is this hardship that will get us through the life in general. Look, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. There's a lot to say tonight, and I'm going to say sorry to the organizers from now. I'll go over my 40 minutes. Inshallah, you'll forgive me. Even if you don't, I've already said it, so there's no point. Inshallah. So stay with me, inshallah. Please bear with me. I ask you again, 6'4", you can't miss me. Come talk to me afterwards, inshallah. I'm here for as long as you need me. You may not agree with what I'm saying. You may not agree with it, but I'm not saying anything from my own. Everything. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah says we created in the insan in the cradle of distress. I put that crack on his sidewalk. I did, Allah says. I did. I did those before, I'll do it after. There's a reason for that. But where does that happiness and contentment come from? Sometimes the reason why we can't reach that level it's been on, because our mentality is not right. Our mindset going in is wrong. We're expecting something that can't be given to us. Allah never promised that the storm won't hit you. Allah never promised you won't be drenched from head to toe. Allah never promised that you won't get a hit on your target. Nowhere, up and down the Quran, show me one verse that says you will be immune from struggles in this dunya. You won't be. So why is it that so long as there's khair, there's itminan, where there's fitna, there's inqalaba? This is describing the worshippers of Allah. Ya Allah, my brothers and sisters, not the munafiqeen, not those who are the atheists of today. You and I. Let's understand. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. A very simple equation for sa'ada. La yas'adu. La yas'adu. Illa bi'iqamati hududillah. You will never reach the level of sa'ada or being sa'id or eternally happy illa except bil iqamati hududillah, except that you preserve and upright the hudud of Allah, the ahkam and the sharia of Allah. Look, this is not an ashra on theology. I'm not here trying to prove God to anybody. The assumption I'm entering in this discussion is that God has been proven to you. We've been given the faculty of the intellect and logic and reasoning. Inshallah, now, if that still is a cause of confusion for all of you, then begin there. There's many resources online to prove the existence of God inside of you. But if that God is muhkam and sift and strong inside of you, then this hadith makes sense. That you cannot reach sa'ada unless you uphold the sharia of Allah. We cannot continue to break the commands of Allah and not even have the respect to go and ask for His forgiveness. Meaning what? We continue to break every law of Allah and don't go back and ask for forgiveness. We just keep going and keep breaking and keep going and keep breaking, and we expect there to be happiness. Imam Ali says it's not possible. The pathway to true contentment is through the ita'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That once you've identified Him to be the only ma'bud who's worthy of worship, then you submit to Him. Because He's a higher power than you. Whether or not that act of worship makes sense to you or not, it doesn't matter, I'm sorry. And that's not blind faith. Don't give me the West jargon. That's not blind faith. Because blind faith is that you have not truly understood why you worship who you worship. No. We understand why we worship Allah. He makes sense in the aql level. There's a reason why taqleed is haram on the usul of the deen. We cannot say to Allah, we believe in you because my marja says so. Nor can I say to Allah, I believe you because Baba says so. No, I believe in you, Allah, because my aql tells me so. My intellect says so. My reasoning that you gave me tells me there can only be one Allah, who's unique and who's number one. Now, once you've identified that at the aql level, you've entered that realm of tawheed. Whatever comes from that same creator, we submit to. Whether we understand it or not. Sometimes today's youth, I don't know about here, at least where I come from, there is this ghurur inside of them. I love them dearly, but this ghurur sometimes I have to break. That Sayyid, convince me why this, convince me why that, convince me why this, and then inshallah I'll think about it and get back to you. Yeah. Why are we living in this part of the world and my marja is in Najaf and Qom? He's never stepped foot in Tanzania. He has no idea what my dard is, what my pain is, and yet he's sending fatwas for me to follow here. He's never lived an hour in my shoes. So convince me now. I'll wait while you get your thoughts together. I've spent hours in coffee shops. I have hours in coffee shops convincing a 15-year-old of certain things. After hours and hours, my throat is dry. There's sweat running down my forehead. I'm an old man now. This beard got really white the past couple of years. Convincing. He's looking at me, yeah, okay, go on. This is not Amazon.com, buddy. You can't keep clicking on suggestions, and this is not related videos on YouTube. Like whether, you have to, after a while, you have to sit there and say, look, it comes from Allah, khalas, that's enough. Inshallah, as I worship Allah more, that yaqeen, He'll give me more and more. Because remember one thing, it's a very important discussion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He functions in entirety. We function moment by moment by moment. He functions from the rooftop, sees everything in one glance. We don't have that basirat, that insight. We live our life moments, get through that moment, the next moment, get through that moment, the season, get through that season, one season at a time. All of you don't have this here in Tanzania, but in Toronto we have 4 seasons a year. And they're actual 4 seasons a year. I was asking, Muhammad how cold does it get here in the winter time? He goes, Malana, 24, 25 degrees. That's when the sweaters come out, yes. And I laugh. There's somebody who's been to Toronto, yes, you have experienced the winters there. They're harsh winters. They're harsh. Even the polar bears leave Toronto in the wintertime. Minus 40 degrees. Insan ki bas ki baat nahi hai, minus 40 degrees. We have 8 layers on. But in that winter, we're dying. We're like, oh my God, it's freezing cold. I can't wait till spring hits. Now the sun, the snow melts, and then the rain starts, correct? Because springtime is rain time. Now it's pouring rain every single day. Oh my God, I'm wet. I can't wait till the summer hits. Now the summer hits, and the summer is 40, 41 degrees. I'm sweating. I can't wait till the fall hits. And we just live season by season by season. We're never quite satisfied in that season that we're in. Even now, many of you are at the different seasons in your life. I oftentimes tell, sometimes my sisters who have young children right now, and if they're listening, please, I hope inshallah you're listening. Right now, that's the season of your life. Okay? Is to raise these small kids. If that means there's a little bit of sacrifice of the night majlis or this majlis or going out for a coffee, that's the season. The season won't last forever. Winters come, winters go. Summers come, summers go. Just get through this one season. There'll come a moment where your kids will sleep on their own, will feed themselves, will go to the bathroom by themselves. There'll come a moment where you'll have a continuous 7-hour sleep. It'll happen one day soon, inshallah. But right now, that's not the season. The problem is that while we understand that from the minbar in practical life, when we're consumed in that season, we think this is what my life is. Whereas Allah says, look, this is season number 1. I see you in season number 6. Get through season number 1 and you'll see the results in season number 6. Just get through it, Baba. Get through the storm. Yes, I'm not telling you that you'll be immune to it. No, you'll be drenched. Hailstorms and snowstorms and rainstorms. And yes, you're cold and you're frostbitten and you're drenched. Absolutely. This is season number 1. And you'll begin to realize at season number 6 that, oh, I am this way at 6 because I endured that at 1. And my elders get this point. But they get this point in their 50s and 60s. I want them to get this point in their 20s. Now they can sit there and, they've told me that I am this way, Mulana, because of everything I've gone through in the 20s. I always tell the elders in the community, always, and I don't mean to steer off my topic, but always tell my elders that when you get a moment, sit down your kids and tell them your story. Tell them your journey. Tell them where you've come from, where you were born, how you got here, how everything. All they see is the results of 20 years of mehnat. Correct? That's all they see. They don't see the fact, even the community-wise. They see this massive building and these beautiful lights. They have no idea what happened 40 years ago. They have no idea who did what 40 years ago. They come in, they turn a switch on, they sit on a very comfortable carpet and they leave. Tell them the efforts. Tell them what you've gained. Tell them what you wish you knew when they were there, when you were their age. Had I known that in season number 6, this would happen because of season number 1, I would have handled season number 1 a little bit different. With each passing hurdle in our life, the contentment towards Allah grows. And it's one of the reasons why Allah precisely places that in front of us. He does not wish to make us suffer, I'm sorry. مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ, the Quran says. What would Allah gain by punishing you? What would He do with it? Do you honestly believe, do I honestly believe that all of this tremendous universe for this insan, and now all I wish to do is sit there and chuckle at myself while this insan struggles and struggles and struggles? Is that our image of God? Is that what we believe God to be? A person who or entity that only listens to my dua if I have a long list of conditions? Or worse, the only time that God will listen to me is if I am infallible, or ma'soom, or muttaqi, or hafiz al-Quran, or muhajjaba sister. Otherwise, I don't wear hijab, I barely pray salat, I don't come to the mosque. Why would He listen to me? When did He ever show me one time where He ever said, if you want to ask me for anything, these are the conditions you must meet. You must be ma'soom. You must be a muhajjaba. You must be a hafiz al-Quran. You must be a Maulana. You must be the son of a Maulana. When? Where? Who told you this? A story of Nabi Ibrahim's time. Very small stories that all of you have heard. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Nabi Ibrahim invites a guest over to his house for dinner one night. Had no idea that he was an idol worshiper. Invited him over. They sit down, they're about to begin their meal, and through talks now, Nabi Ibrahim realizes he's not a muwahid. He's not a person who believes in one Allah. He's a mushrik, idol worshiper. Nabi Ibrahim asks him very politely, please leave my house. And he leaves. Wahi comes down to Nabi Ibrahim, the entire life of this one individual, his rizq was in my hands. I gave him rizq every single day that he asked for it. The one meal that I put him in your house and you rejected him. Go back and bring him back. Meaning what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for those who don't even accept Him as a Lord. The more we worship Allah, the more that بِإِقَامَةِ حُدُودِ اللَّهِ, that we protect the hudud and the sharia of Allah to the best of our ability. Please, to the best of our ability. It's not either I am sinless or it's nothing. Please. Either it's 1 or it's 0. Absolutely not. Everyone's journey to Allah is different. The Prophet says, worship Allah to the best of your ability. The only way that He will reject your worship is when you're tired of worshiping Him. Allahu Akbar. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be this flawless, sinless, infallible individual, and because I can't reach that level, Sayyid, forget it. It's hopeless. I don't want to do it. The more we worship Allah, the more we understand the entirety aspect, the more that we have to get through that one season of our life and we are drenched. That's when that contentment is inside and out. It's the very contentment inside of me that helps me walk through the storm. I'm drenched, but I never left Allah's kingdom. Because where people leave Allah's kingdom, where the hijabs come off, where their beards are shaved off, where their names are changed, where people leave the center, is not on the sunny days. It's in the eye of the very storm that you're in. It's right here during the middle of the storm where I say, you know what, I'm tired of this. فَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ انْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. I'm disgusted by you, I'm out, I'm sorry. I'm denouncing my faith. I'm taking off my hijab. I can't handle it anymore. I was told if I did this, I would be free. I don't know who told you that. But get through that season and you'll see the results later on. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So my brothers and my sisters, true contentment does not lie outside of you. Minimalism cuts that chain, frees the slave of the power of possessing. Frees that enslavement of possession and once again reconnects you with what? With clarity and purpose and focus, that contentment is always inside of you. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. With the dhikr of Allah, you have this itminan, the dhikr of Allah in every aspect of your life. When things are sunny and gorgeous, when things are hailing and raining, at all times we say, La ilaha illallah. Then we can maybe get to that point where Imam Hussein is holding his 6-month-old and all he says is Radan biqadah. I submit, I'm radi, I submit, I'm radi. And one of the beautiful stories that we have in this story of Karbala, of telling us that there is never a point of no return in the eyes of Allah, is the story of Janabi Khuri. A story of hope. A story of this idea of forgiveness. Let's understand the power of this moment and the power of this man now. What he was responsible for. Hur was that commander that was in every meeting with Umar bin Sa'ad, with Shimr, with Hurmala, with everybody else, that would sit there and decide that we're going to reroute Hussein ibn Ali from Kufa towards Karbala. Janabi Hur was available and he was sitting in those meetings and they talked about the plan of attack, moving the tents from Furat, denying water and food. Janabi Hur was that individual that actually physically stopped the journey of Hussein and told him to go towards Karbala. He was that individual that when this encounter happened in the outskirts of Karbala, Imam Hussein gave his water to not only the men of Hur but the animals of Hur as well. He caused a lot of pain for Imam Hussein, leading up to that epic moment on the day of Ashura. A lot of pain. And up until that day of Ashura now, everything was going. But the one thing that it seems to me at least, I have not read this in the book, it seems as if to me that Hur always believed that eventually there'll be some sort of a understanding between the two parties. I don't think he actually believed that Umar bin Sa'ad would kill Imam Hussein. until the morning of Ashura. When Hur is asking Umar bin Saad, Ibn Saad, what is the plan today? He says, I'm going to attack Hussein. The plan is to kill Hussein. And the way that this conversation is relayed between Imam Hussein and Janabi Hur is such that there is some sort of shock between Hur and Imam Hussein, between Hur and Umar bin Saad, that Hur is saying, you're actually going to shed the blood of the son of Fatima. He says, I have to. To the point where when he shot the first arrow, he turns around to his army, bear witness that I was the first one to shoot the arrow against Hussein ibn Ali. Because Yazid promised a big reward for the first one who would instigate the attack on Hussein. And Hur is hearing all of this. And Hur stood there. He stood there on one side, 30,000 people and imminent success and imminent victory. On the other side was Hussein ibn Ali, maybe 100 people. And he stood there and he described it beautifully for you and I, who sometimes we also stand at that exact junction where he says, I was standing between heaven and hell. Even though hell on the outside, on the apparent, bidahir, was this what? Victory, success, maybe reward. There was no bloodshed on you. You won't lose your son, you won't lose your slave, you won't lose yourself. No, but on this side was what? On this side was heaven to him. That where Hussein is, that's where heaven was. And he was being pulled by both sides. It's such a relevant story for us today. Do we not sometimes stand at that junction between what we want and what Allah wants? What the deen wants, what my nafs want? What shaitan is whispering, what Allah is whispering? And Hur was that manifestation of that jihad for us on the day of Ashura. Emotionally driven day now. Warfare everywhere. All of the tools, everything was set up for an actual war. At that moment for him to make this choice is monumental. He says no. Some say he took a few soldiers. Some say he took his son. Some say he took a couple of other people. And he began to make his way towards Hussein ibn Ali. Some reports say that he asked his son to tie his hands, to blindfold him, and to take him by hand to the feet of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When Janabi Hur is making his way towards the camp of Imam Hussein, Imam Hussein summons Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Abbas, there's somebody coming. Go see who it is. He says, Mawla, it's Hur. And a few others with him. He's blindfolded. His hands are tied. Tell him to come. Janabi Hur now, if I can paint the picture for you, is walking ever so slowly towards Imam Hussein. Imagine now if those thoughts are inside of us, the amount of regret we have, embarrassment we have. They say that Hur fell to the feet of Imam Hussein. That Mawla, I'm here to ask for your forgiveness. Imam Hussein immediately picked him up, hugged him and kissed him, embraced him as a brother and said, Janabi Hur, if you're going to apologize to me, I also want to apologize to you. When we met, when we were enemies, I gave you all my water, but now that you're my brother, I don't have a drop of water for you. Hur says, I don't want your water, Mawla. I want to sacrifice me and my son in your mission. And a conversation occurs now. Who will go first? Will the son go first or will Hur go first? Will the son go first or the father goes first? Eventually now Imam Hussein says to Hur, Hur, let your son go first. The son of Hur now rides into the Maidan of Karbala and begins to fight individuals who were his army just a few moments ago. When he falls from the horse, the son of Hur, and calls out to his father, before Hur could run towards the Maidan, Imam Hussein stops him, says, Hur, you are the father of a Javan son. You are the father of a very young individual. I am here. Abu Fazl is here. Let me go. Let us bring your son back. You should not go to the body of a Javan son. We will take care of that. I'll say this much to you, Mawla. You were so concerned about Hur and a Javan son, but there'll come a time where your Ali Akbar will fall from the horse. Alaykum salam ya abata. Accept my salam, O father. But is there anybody in the Maidan of Karbala who will ever say, Hussein, you're 57 years old. He's in his 20s. We will bring back the body for you. But no, rather we see that when Ali Akbar now leaves this world, Imam Hussein is searching for a way to bring him back to the Khaima. Some say that he carried him back. Some say he brought the small kids, but nowhere was there any concern that Imam Hussein was a Za'if Bab. He's a Javan son. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Matem Hussein.